All right, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to play our little intro and let people come in. These shows resonate with you. Please share. We would appreciate it. We're being suppressed, as usual, on notifications not getting out on Facebook, and YouTube has been deleting people off our subscribers list. So after quite a bit of growth, they've taken a few hundred away. Inexplicably. Okay, we got Andrew Rawlings in the house. Beautiful dude from Tasmania. And we're going to get to know him. You know, these are some of my favorite shows, is where we bring people in that are in the community and support the community and with their energy and their love. And we get to know them, you know. It's always cool. All right, be right back. How's it going, everybody? Got Andrew Rawlings in the house. I'm about to pull him up and get him up here, and we're going to get to know him a little bit. We're going to get to know each other in front of everybody. Technically my little brother, 10 years and 4 days younger than me, is coming on with me in an hour and a half. So that'll be a good follow-up to this show. All right, let's get Andrew up here. Whew. It's hot. There we go. Let's see, start video. How's that? Here you come. There you are. You're sideways. Other than that, you're good. Hang on. I'm trying to unmute you. Oh, there you go. You're good. All right. You're out in nature.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, with the sunrise.
You know, my wife spent a lot of time in Tasmania growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good spot.
Yeah, she says it's beautiful. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't my usual deal, getting on and speaking in front of people, but yeah,
I know.
Good.
I know. But you know, we're all getting pushed a little bit these days, it seems like.
We sure are.
I saw a picture of your wife. She's very, very attractive. Very illuminated. Y'all make a great couple.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super did that.
So you're like always there, you know, you're always like there with these comments, and I can just tell you get it, you know. And I was just thinking today, because we had trouble on the last show, so we couldn't do it. And I was just like thinking about stuff, and I was thinking about all these people that are beating a dead horse, you know, with this disclosure thing, you know, with what's out there. We know it's out there, you know, pushing this. And then there's people that have your kind of energy. And I'm not trying to say anyone's better than another. I'm just observing. I'm sitting here observing. I'm trying to learn myself and expand for myself. So I look at your energy, and you're just like, you just get it. You just get it. I mean, you're just like clued in. You don't attract a lot of attention to yourself. You just bring your energy, man. So it was a good thing for me to reflect on, you know, and you're the reason.
Cool. Glad I
Yeah.
contribute.
So how things been for you in these last few
Oh,
weeks? Everybody else is talking about how crazy it's been. How about you?
bit of a roller coaster. Yeah,
Yeah.
some days sort of firing on all 8 cylinders. Other days it's like, oh my god, I've got to get up out of bed. You know, it's
Yeah.
definitely a rough ride. But since I was sort of going along with what you said about you dive into all these rabbit holes and you want to find the truth of everything. You want answers.
Yeah.
And it just gets too much, and you just go, look, I can see what's going on. It's obvious that there's a lot of stuff being going on in the world that you can sort of feel in the background. It's not, yeah, and it's like it's all got to come up and clear eventually. Like they say, 2020 year of perfect vision. This is the year that it all seems happening, and then it just sort of disconnected myself from all that stuff, all that sitting in the shed watching conspiracy videos and kill, all that sort of thing.
We've all been there.
Oh,
No
mate.
doubt. We've all been there. Yeah. You know, I was just watching a clip, a Joe Rogan clip, and it was about, I don't know, 10 minutes with this black comedian. I forget his name, Hannibal, or I think that's his name. Anyway, so the clip was about Rogan talking about this lady, whatever her name is, Giselle Maxwell, the Epstein's girlfriend or whatever, getting arrested. And so what he was saying that, you know, if you ever heard anything like that, you couldn't believe it. I mean, it'd be like, you know, you're out of your mind that there's an island in the middle of the ocean that all these famous people go to, and da 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 da. But then he said, but this is really happening. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that and there's enough of that information out there. We all know it's happening. We all know it's happening. Every bit of it's happening, you know? So what's the next step? I mean, what was the point of us being awakened? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I sort of, I don't know, I guess I started out in life with I grew up at a beach, not a lot of people around, sort of out in nature all the time, pretty simple old-fashioned family. I never had a dad, but sort of had, like, when my dad left when I was 3 months old, one of my mother's friends sort of moved in, and it was kind of like growing up with two mums. So got a lot of that feminine side from that. But also, I was always told since I was a little kid, you're the man of the house, you know. You need firewood, you need to do this, you know. So I was always that real manly environment as well. But spent most of my time in the bush, on the beach, just walking around and just feeling, you just feel connected. I was raised in a Christian environment, but things just never quite seemed right in that. It's like, yeah, this Jesus character, I like that. That's good, but all the Old Testament stuff never quite fit with me.
Yeah.
Then sort of get to school years and sort of get caught up in your own story and your own ego, and just it all sort of fades away a bit. And then, just become a normal everyday Aussie bloke. Didn't really, it's just, what's the next fun thing we're going to do? You know, what can I get to make life interesting for the next little bit? And then all of a sudden I get a phone call one day from my best mate's sister saying that he just committed suicide. And it was like, just sort of rips the rug out from under you.
Isn't it?
Then sort of then you start looking inside. You ask all the deep questions like, what the hell is everything? What is this existence we're in? Like a good guy like that, the Bible says, you know, suicide, or, you know.
Yeah.
But and then you look at someone who was like such a good guy, he had his struggles in life, like we all do.
Yeah.
And it just turns you inwards. And you know, I went pretty deeply into depression for a while.
How old were you?
That was 2009. So yeah, what was that then? Yeah, early 30s. Yeah, and it just makes you look at everything differently. You just look at everything and go, man, what the hell is this? What's this physical world we live in? What's behind it? What's it for? And all of that. And that's where it all begins. You just start looking into all different types of religions, just looking for answers. And I've always been pretty black and white. I'm like, yep, is that it? Nah. Yeah, some good bits, but
Yeah.
you know, I've been a religion, but you know, but
Yeah, nothing answered all of it, right?
no.
Not even
but,
the sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
yeah,
That didn't work either. The church of distraction. Yeah, that's pretty. You know, just as a reminder, you know, and I'm not saying it's gospel, but you know, Franco talks about, you know, because you're right. I forgot about the stigma with suicide and purgatory and you know all that stuff. But you know, that's obviously a man-made invention. But yeah, that's a powerful thing. I remember when I graduated high school, when I was a kid, I had gone to school with my grandfather's best friend's grandson. We were the same age, and in my hometown, and yeah, we went to Catholic school together. Actually, went to kindergarten. I got my first fight. I'll never forget that. These guys were picking on him, and then I went over to save him, and they put my head through the glass window. Then I had to go outside. The nun made me go stand outside under the gutter and let the water drip on my head. That was crazy, right? But anyway, when I was graduating, my grandfather drove 7 hours, and came to the graduation. And I remember after the ceremony coming home before the partying started, right? And my grandfather was on the lazy boy in tears. And my grandfather was an old school, like you didn't see him cry. He was like the Godfather. He was like you know, he was one of those Mexican machismo and all that. But he was crying, man, because my friend who had just graduated had committed suicide. And I remember that day because I was like, number one, I never seen my grandfather cry. Number two, it was such a high, you know, because that is a big day for, I think, a young person, right? But then the contrast of this kid who I'd known since I was a little boy, who I went to kindergarten with. And it was like, you know, one was going in the door and the other was going out. And it made a huge impression on me that I'm still learning from, really. Yeah. So how did you get into this? Was it just through the searching? I mean, how did you discover light worker circles and, you know, ascension groups? And
just popped up, and you know, in searching all different things, and you know, the Eckhart Tolle and all the different things that philosophies that you're sort of interested in, and it just popped up, and I'm like, hey, there's a good bunch of people that, you know, sort of seem to be asking the same sorts of questions as me, having a lot of the answers I need. Yeah, it's good.
You know, you guys are going through like some pretty, I don't know about Tasmania, but is Tasmania a state or is it part of South Australia?
No, it's an island to the south of Victoria. It's its own state.
It's its own state. But I mean, they're like going through pretty severe measures over there. I mean, they're like
That-
totally locking everything down. By the
And I-
way, eventually I'll be living in Adelaide, South Australia, and we'll be neighbors.
Awesome.
Yeah, I just have to get some legal stuff taken care of. You know, everybody's trying to get into this country. I'm trying to get the hell out of this country. But
In Tasmania anytime soon.
but so how I don't know much about Tasmania, but I mean how open is this type of stuff in in Tasmania? Do people talk about it? I mean, I know Yvonne lives there and her mother, and that's enough,
Yeah.
that's enough to take care of about 100 people. But do people talk about it? Do they? Is it? No.
No, I don't really talk with a lot of. I mean, even with the way I work, I sort of work by myself a lot for myself, and then sort of don't spend a whole lot of time in conversation with people. But it's just the daily life stuff. People seem to. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more people like me in the background that are
Yeah.
sort of do this stuff, but they
But
don't.
it's not like on TV, and you don't have like talk shows, and not that we have them here either. But
I watch TV much these days, but yeah.
right, no kidding, right? How do you navigate this thing? I mean, does your wife talk about it? Do you guys talk about it? Because I know people that come on the show that their spouse is just present and doing it their own way, you know?
Yeah, not a lot. She's like the rock in the background. She thinks I'm a bit mad sometimes, but she keeps me grounded. But
Just wait till the spaceship lands in your backyard. Right? Man, there's got to be a lot of activity. And I'm not one of those. It's like, hey, the ships are going to land. In fact, if they landed, I'd be the first person to question whether they were, whether it was a fake invasion or whatever you want to call it. I'm not one for giving our power away to anything, whether it's Jesus, Santa Claus, or the big bad wolf. But over there, I've always had this thing, right? So I've always been very drawn to Antarctica. And when I met Morgan, and keep in mind, she would not go on camera with me or send me pictures for a year and a half. I had to go off these old 5 pictures that were on her Facebook. But when I met her, I could smell, I was in Adelaide. I was describing places in Adelaide, one particular place, the beach and this mountain where that Kuan Yin statue is. And so something in my head, because that's like when it first started for me, like when it really started to kick up and I could start to see it wasn't just the past memories and activations and all that stuff. It was now something laying out in front of me. And I knew in that moment that I would go to Adelaide to live like it was my home. And I also knew that I would go to Antarctica. Now, Tasmania is in between.
yeah,
It's on the, I mean, it's
vision. It's like one of the gateways to Antarctica. A lot of scientists and here.
Yeah.
And it's where I grew up at Clifton Beach. It's right down the south of Tasmania, sort of on the dunes. And you basically pull my curtain back in my bedroom and I'm looking out across the horizon straight south, due south. So it's sort of, we're right down near the bottom. But
so you're down at the southern end. So, and first of all, Australia, New Zealand, that whole quadrant is just a powerful portal. I mean, it's just, there's just so much evidence of that. And then you have the mystery of whatever of Antarctica, which, there's enough information out there that we know that it's not what it's been portrayed as. I mean, you got what, 37 countries signed a treaty down there that nobody will make a claim to it and nobody can go there and, all that stuff. But there's got to be that Tasmania's in it's got to be like a magical place. Do you ever see anything? I mean, does anything stand out, like whether it be spaceships or nature beings or whatever?
No, I don't see anything like that. I don't know. I generally feel stuff more. I feel
Yeah.
more connected to nature, and
Yeah.
especially the last 10 years or so. I mean, when I went through my sort of dark night of the soul, I guess you call it, it's, you know, looking online for depression cures and things like that. And I found this mad Indian bloke talking about watching the sunrise and the sunset and just staring into it.
Yeah.
And thought, sun gazing. I thought, yeah, right, I'm going to give that a go. And, you
No
know,
wonder your wife thinks you're crazy sometimes.
yeah, yeah, I just think mad hippie. Everyone just calls me mad hippie. But, you know, something about it, standing there with your feet in the dirt, watching the sun come up, just a few minutes, or it could be 20 minutes, or it could be 40 minutes. It's just this connection it changes, does something to you. It's not like, yeah, it just makes you feel grounded.
Yeah.
It just makes you feel solid, and it's definitely, yeah, I don't know,
It's
woken
like,
me up.
yeah, that's a good point. You know, it's like I started to appreciate. I always got off on nature, and I spent most of the first 2 years of Soulspeaks walking. You know, uh, and in around trees and different places. But there's something about when I went to Hawaii, I started to really take in the earth more than I ever had. And one of those things was the sunrise and sunset. I think it's like when you're a kid, when you're a kid and you lay in the front yard and you put your arms behind your head and you're looking at the clouds, and there's something about that. And it's not like this fantastical, multidimensional, dimensional, all that stuff that goes on. It's just being present. And it's,
Being
yeah.
part.
Yeah. Yeah, you probably have somebody put in here that Denise Chadwick, she says New Zealand and Australia are very switched on. They get the first light of the day on the planet. They see the sun first. I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice respite from digging into conspiracies and all that sort of thing. It's sort of on to the next, and yeah, but once you've seen enough of it all, it change. You can feel things are happening. I mean, you've only got to look at the world. It's gone absolutely nuts.
Perfect, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a great design. Perfect design.
Big crazy Lego set that's got to get pulled apart before it can be built the right way. We're just watching it crumble.
How do you deal with the fluctuations? How do you deal with like when you get, do you ever get like rocked by the energies and stuff? I mean, triggered and by people?
Oh yeah.
Or
Yeah. Not, I don't know. I just back to nature, I guess. Go and sit under the tree, go for a walk on the beach. Just, I don't know, recenters you a bit. But I've been through phases where, I'm that guy who's got to tell everybody all about what I've discovered, and how come you guys about this? I'm one of them. I was.
You're one of those?
Yeah.
We've all been one of those. And then you start to realize that, I don't know, what is it? Like you can't really learn something by somebody telling you. You actually have to experience it, I guess. But yeah, I used to crack up because I did it first, I was telling everybody and they told me I was out of my mind, and then you notice it like on Facebook, because people like they'll wake up and then they'll put up a post and they'll be like, nobody wants to listen to me. Nobody's listening to what I'm saying. They don't understand the truth. They're asleep. And it's like, they're not going to, But there's a lot of cognitive dissonance too.
Yeah, it's defense mechanism, I guess it is.
Yeah, and even in these communities, when it comes to certain things, you know, there's some cognitive dissonance. You know, like the you know, it's all fluffy love and light. That one.
Yeah. Hang on, I've got to plug my phone in. I've got it.
That's cool.
Dodgy battery, I think.
Right on.
All good.
Are you a musician? Are you a musician?
I used to play guitar a bit, but
yeah,
I haven't for a long time.
You look like one.
One of those things that I'd like to. I don't know. I've never been the kind of person that would want to get up in front of people and sing and play stuff like that. It was more just something for myself, you know.
You ever get out there and howl at the moon?
Yeah.
Do you?
Not so much of that.
I can say
outside at night, you know, just staring up at it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a feeling when I get over there, we might go out to the bush and we might be howling at the moon a little bit. Man, I know that the bush out there is full of energy. It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's ancient, man.
When I was a kid, like you could be walking through different parts of where I lived, and you know, this bit feels alive in this way, and then that feels alive in that way. It's not like seeing fairies and elves or anything like that. It's just feel. Yeah.
Now, did they have? I guess they would have. The Aboriginal people, or they? It's the same in Tasmania as it was on the main.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the Tasmanian Aboriginal history, I guess, has been lost because they were virtually wiped out.
Yeah.
But the same sort of structure that the mainland Aboriginals had, they were just a bit hardier down here, I guess, because of the climate. But yeah,
it's colder. I would assume it's colder over there where you're at.
Yeah.
Do you get snow?
We do up on the high hills and on the mountain. Not very often.
Because it's winter there now. You got a coat on, but it looks warm.
Yeah, it's cold morning, but once the sun comes up, it's good. Still sunny days, cool breeze kind of thing at the moment. But it's definitely a good place to live.
Somebody, Holly Watson says, have you been to the Vortex Healing Center on the East Coast?
No.
I guess the East Coast of Tasmania.
Haven't heard of that. Sounds interesting.
Yeah. Somebody, Janine says, do you change the background behind you? Because you see different beings. She sees different beings all the time. I do too, man. When I'm watching, like when I'm putting up the comment after the shows, I see different faces. It's pretty weird. Do you know Yvonne Bartholomew's?
Only, not personally, only.
Yeah. Yeah, you had to connect with her in a while, man.
Yeah.
I don't know where they live, but I mean, Tasmania can't be that big, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's sort of, maximum of 4-hour drive to anywhere in the state, pretty much.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. It's just so weird that you have a big island like that off this what is a big island that's as big as North America, basically, Australia mainland, and that because how far are you from, like by I guess you go by boat to or plane?
Overnight or a day trip on the boat from the north of our state takes you into Melbourne, Victoria. It's sort of.
How long does that take? Like 3 hours or 5 hours?
No, I think it's more like, I haven't done that boat trip for a while. It's probably 7 or 8 hour trip, I guess. It's an hour in a plane from where I live to Melbourne. So it's, Bass Strait's not huge, but it's.
So what's the climate like over there in terms of like people, like in terms of what's, the restrictions that are being laid down and all that? I've seen where over there seems to be a bigger push from, I guess, the municipalities, the government, for vaccinations and such.
There is
Are the
yeah.
people pushing back? Are they just or not?
I guess there's a lot of people that do push back against it, but you don't see a lot of it. You hear people. I think most people just go along with what they're told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely, we don't vaccinate our kids anymore, and
Yeah.
I hear of anything like that.
How many kids you got?
2 stepchildren and 2 young girls of my own, so 4 all up.
Yeah. How old are they?
Lucy's 13. Oh, I'm going to get myself into trouble now. Sadie's
Yeah, I
12.
know. I do the same thing. So the girls are 12 and 13?
Yeah.
Or that okay. And then the older ones, your stepchildren?
He's 18, and
Okay.
Emily. Yeah, it's sort of.
So you got a pretty good mix there. What's
Yeah.
going that fascinates me, man. I don't know if you caught this. I don't know. I was talking about it. Somebody didn't show up a couple of weeks ago. My son called me, one of my sons, and we had a video call for like 2.5, 3 hours, man. And he's just telling me, Dad, I'm woke. Like I just never understood what you were talking about. And now he got in a car accident. His life flashed before his eyes, and I guess that had something to do with it. But I'm fascinated by these young people and what their take on everything is, because what I'm seeing is that they've got less of a handicap, I guess. Maybe their DNA was in better alignment or something. I don't know. I mean, but like observing things through your interactions with your kids. I mean, do they surprise you? Does anything?
Nothing's to bother them. That's what surprises me. That especially my youngest one, Sadie. She's just like, she's listened to me with all my conspiracies and the ancient cultures and all of that sort of thing. She loves it. She just sees things fairly well. I think it's kind of humbling, really. I think, man, I was nothing like you when I was a little kid. I was just,
Yeah, man. But that's like, I mean, I'm 58, and if you think about when we came down the chute, TV was just blowing up. I mean, that was a big deal. I guess, mass production was, where you could start getting pretty much anything. Franchises like McDonald's were popping up. I mean, so everything became accessible, and, the programming was in full force, right?
Yeah, because everything's starting. It's like a whirlwind of stuff, everywhere you look, there's stuff.
Yeah. And then these kids, they're like, first of all, they can take these devices and just like, I don't know about you, but I took typing in middle school, like when I was 13. I took a semester of typing and for an easy grade, but had I not taken that, it'd probably take me like 10 times longer to type something up on a computer laptop. But these kids, they're just like all over it.
Yeah.
So they're getting all that information. Like, I think maybe one of the big differences is because how when you're a little kid, you're bringing in, I mean, it's a scientific fact, medical fact, you're bringing in like huge amounts of data. You're learning at this incredible pace, and then it slowly decreases until about 18, and then it starts to dive.
And, I've noticed that.
But with the internet,
people's VCR,
yeah, like now with the internet, everybody's that puts the time in is like just like us, surfing on conspiracy disclosure issues, whatever the case is, light workers or whatever. You can get boom, 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 boom. And so these kids, if you think about it, they're not having that happen. We went like this, and then coming back up, they're actually went up and just keep going. So their rate of learning and their style of learning is totally different than ours.
Yeah,
Who's that?
that's Pip. She's
Pip.
my dog.
Right on.
Hello, Pip. She's cold. She wants pats.
I told Morgan when we moved to Adelaide, I've already seen the house and it's got some acreage. I'm going to get 2 big dogs.
Yep. Yeah.
She says, absolutely not. She says, if you get one, build a second house because you're not coming in this one.
That sounds like Ness. Yeah. That Robert Sepp stuff's fascinating that you've been sharing. I've never
He's
found
amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. That guy is absolutely amazing. I've asked him to come on 2 or 3 times. I know he thinks I'm because like the first time I saw him, I was like all excited. I'm like, hey man, I'm building this multiple channel network and I'm going to put your stuff on it. And he's like, well, let's see what happens. And then a year goes by and I'm like, hey, do you want to come on? Let's see what happens. He's a very nice guy. And, but yeah, you brought up a while ago about what you were talking about with your youngest, with the, we think of ancient civilizations and we're thinking ancient aliens, ancient astronauts and stuff, and that may very well be true, but some of the stuff that he has, have you seen the one, I don't know if I posted it, but it was one of the more recent ones he did about the Grand Canyon? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Holy crap, man. I mean, they have these, mega tunnels that are carved to perfection. Just like the pyramids, the way they were built, just they're like perfection, and they're all, and of course nobody can go look at them because of the government. But I'll tell you the one that I thought was really interesting was it's something about Adam and Eve. It's about 10 minutes long, 10, 11 minutes long, and it talks about that the metaphoric explanation of the Garden of Eden in the apple was about the orgasm, that in our natural state, it's kind of orgasmic, I guess, or kundalini-ish, or, whatever you want to call it. And that when we started to have orgasms became the primary focus, that basically depletes our energy. And it's a nice listen because it's only about 10 minutes long, and most of it is this guy talking, obviously some scholar, but it's pretty interesting. Yeah, he's opening a lot of eyes, and I like the way he's doing it because, by the way, we're talking about Robert Sepper, Sepher, at Atlantean Gardens, but I like the way he does it too because he's not being bought by anybody. Like, he's written 4 books. He's got several groups on Facebook. He's got 2 YouTube channels, and he just keeps plugging away,
Yep.
And then that organic thing is really powerful. And I think that's something we're going to see, the power of organic growth and natural organic flow. He's a great example.
Graham Hancock's another one. I don't know if you've his work. Yeah. That's the thing that got me, was the similarities between all the ancient cultures and all these numbers that keep popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, then it gets into the pre-diluvian, before the flood and all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, hang on a minute. This wasn't just some little island that sunk in the sea. This was
no, man. And then, what about he has one called Wise as Serpents. Have you ever seen that one? And how you have the serpent in all these, I mean, everything, every civilization, every religion, and where I'm going with it is I'm starting to go, okay, wait a minute. So the history's written by the winners, right? So to speak. So they've been laying out all this history, which emphasizes the heroes and the good guys, and it accentuates and therefore labels the bad guys.
Yeah.
And you start to wonder, I wonder if so-and-so was that bad.
Yeah.
For example, and I'm not advocating anything. I'm just making a point. Hitler, Nazis, right?
Mm.
Hitler stood up to the Rothschilds. And we all know what's happened to Libya, Iraq, what is it? Iraq. Yeah. Any of the countries that move away from the world monetary system, they get taken out. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's like, what do you believe? I mean, how do we know? But the type of stuff that he's putting out is very objective, very balanced. He doesn't put his opinions in it. And it's good stuff, and it's Graham Hancock, good stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
after
it makes you wonder what really happened. It's no different than growing up here, maybe growing up over there. Like growing up here, the U.S. cavalry was the heroic force of the West, and the Indians were bad guys. And then you start to figure out that something else was going on.
like Franco calls it the inverted matrix. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much.
Yeah.
I started things. Something's presented to you where this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. It's like, right, well, let's have a look at it from the bad guy's point of view.
Exactly.
Let's look into that. And
yeah, exactly. I think the other thing I find really interesting about what his work has shown me, you read about stuff like in the light worker communities, and people channel this and they channel that, and that's great. But when somebody presents it factually and it just lays it out there and lets you connect the dots, and you're dealing with substance, or at least from the human aspects point of view. So things like the credible evidence that Star Family has come down with many prior civilizations and lived amongst us, and then take it to a certain point and they leave.
Yep.
That cycle of, like, kicking the baby out of the nest. Like, why would they intervene now? That's what I'm thinking. Like, why would you? If the whole point is you've come down, you've taught us, the species expands and grows, and we destroyed ourselves over and over and over. Maybe the whole thing was an ascension platform, the whole time. And maybe we're at the point now where we're actually going to make it happen. It sure feels like it.
Yeah, the Tasmanian Aboriginals have got some of their cave paintings and things that they used to do. Basically, it just looks like flying saucers and with beams coming out the bottom. It's like, it's not just that. It's every culture. When you go back far enough, it's all got some sort of outside intervention.
Yeah.
Planting a seed or something.
Yeah. Yeah. And yes, this guy, he's pretty cool. He has a really strong conviction in regard to Q and to Trump and that whole narrative. And so he hit me up a few times, and when I first met him, and he was like, well, if you're not with us, then you're a communist or whatever. And I said, dude, chill the fuck out. I mean, like, I'm not giving my power away to anything. And here's my whole thing. He wrote me one yesterday, and I wrote him a nice note back. I don't usually message anybody back because I just can't. But I did, and I said to him, dude, look, when somebody who is in a position of power actually stands up and says, hey, this is what some have done in the past, and pretty much all of them got taken out. That's a given, right? But somebody like that, somebody that has the attention of the world, let's put it that way, that is in a substantial position of power, stands up and says, let me tell you what's really going on here. We have this hidden history. This is what the fuck's going on. How can you have thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of UFO sightings and occurrences and blah, 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 blah. And everybody's tight-lipped, not saying anything. Like, what the fuck is this? Right? Like, when's somebody going to get up and say, I am a star seed. I'm not afraid to die. I'm an eternal soul. Here's the truth, America. Here's the truth, Australia. Here's the truth, the world. Okay? Period. End of story. And if somebody shoots holes in me, then, you know, it's just going to further prove that what I'm saying is true. And if they don't, let's take this ride, you know? And until somebody does that, I'm not giving my power away. And I wouldn't give my power away to them anyway. But the whole point is, you know, what's the deal? Like, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's really interesting. Really is. I mean, it's really interesting what's happening. Let's see. Delia says it's really annoying to keep running a program, and it brings back the same you mentioned, something in our field we fed attention to when we allow our energy out to everything else. It's noise and clutter to the field within us and around us. Yeah, it's just like, you know, the truth has arrived, and the truth isn't. I'm sorry, the truth isn't any political leader, government leader. They're just like us. They just happen to be in a different place. And if you take the measurement system from the world we're leaving out of the equation, then they're just like us. They wipe their ass just like we do, put their socks on just like we do. I mean, we came here to find to not just find our power, but I think to expand it. And I do think we have a lot of support, though.
Yeah, I've always had that sort of looking around at everything and thinking, why are we still doing this way? You know, look at the weight, the pollution, look at all of that. And as a carpenter, especially, you know, there's a lot of wasteful ways in the building industry. And I've come across a guy called Mike Reynolds. He builds what they call, it's all recycled materials, real hippie house, you know, rammed earth walls with tires and glass bottle, all that sort of thing. And I'm thinking, yeah, there's someone doing something about it. He can see that, you know, take building solutions from the problems.
Yeah.
You know, how we move forward in the nuts and bolts world. So that's the sort of thing I want to contribute to.
Well, and those actions, and again, here we go. I saw a great post. I just watched a few minutes of it. You know, Lori Ladd, Ladd. We had her on the. Yeah, she's very powerful, man. She's been downloading for 3 or 4 years, and she just puts it out every day. Very, very down to earth. She has a huge following, and I just happened to catch a video she did a few days ago. It was actually an excerpt from a show she was on. That's what it was. And so she was saying, okay, when it comes to your work, to your mission in the light worker community, like, there's this notion out there that that it has to look a certain way, that it has to be done a certain way, and you know what I mean, and presented a certain way, or it's not legit. And I didn't get to watch the rest of it, but I know where she was going with it. She was going to blow the hell out of it, right? Which was rightfully so. And this is what I'm saying. When someone like the gentleman you're talking about, or what you do in your own efforts to resolve things, right? It's the energetics behind it that's most important. That is the most powerful thing. And if we can get away from measuring ourselves based on the number of likes or the number of people in your community or whatever the case is, and get away from that and understand that everything we do is seen and heard. And there is a, as we know, I mean, the universe, you don't get anything for free.
No. And what do we for the next? That's what I keep thinking, you know, like, we inherited a pretty good world in a lot of ways, and pretty messed up one in a lot of ways too. And I think each generation, it's just do your own part.
But you know, if if we are everything that the trajectory of the conversations, the evolution that's talked about in these communities, we could flip this world like that. We could do whatever we want, and I think we do that by doing like what you're talking about, by actually on an individual level making, bringing resolution, bringing transformation from our own field without standing on a soapbox or you know, having a megahorn in your hand and saying, hey, look at me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, it's the subtle thing that make the most lasting differences. I think it's not. It's like all this QAnon stuff, Trump, and everyone's a savior mentality. It'll all be gone. It'll all be forgotten. It's this. It's bandwagon mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
what
That's
you say.
exactly right. That's
Make
exactly
change,
right. It's like,
and that's how.
it's like everyone jumps on. I mean, it's happened here. It's happened here. One of the things I've been struggling with, maybe you can help me, is, you know, there's a lot of people want to come on this show. And I think, as far as I know, I'm doing more shows than anybody. I get a note from the multi-streaming company, and they're like, you're in the top 1%, you know, of this. And then I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people use that service, but what I'm getting at is people get upset because they can't come on when they want to. They have a specific agenda that you know, we don't resonate with, or we don't align with, or we don't do that. We don't use it as a marketing tool for people. You know,
Yeah.
if people resonate, they connect with them. And I know from talking to many people that they gain from this. So I have people unfriend me, and somehow or another, my higher self or whatever, I'll look at someone, I'll say, oh, I haven't seen them in a while. I'll go check. Oh, unfriended, you know, unfriended. And I just like, okay, this is up for me right now. I know it is. And I want to send them a note and say, hey, why'd you unfriend me? And call them out, right? But I know I can't do that.
Yeah,
right?
and then you think, bother.
Yeah. And because it's falling into the same trap. Like this, there's a very prominent person in the community that's come on more than once. I'll just say that. And they were on another broadcast, and they were telling me how many views it got. Like, wow, we got X number of views. And I said, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to live and die by that. But by the same token, if I send these people a note, then I'm falling into that same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that doesn't wash anymore. We can't go there.
Yeah, who's got time for all that anyway?
Yeah, I know. I'm just wondering why it's bugging me in the last couple of days. I don't know. But I've learned, hanging around Morgan, I've learned to respect what comes into my field.
Yeah.
I've learned to say, okay, well, this is showing up, or this is agitating me for a reason. So I need to bring peace to that, you know?
Yeah. It's like when you're working with someone that gets to you, or, you know, little argument you might have somewhere, and, you know, you always think, oh, it's them. Oh, this person's an a-hole.
Yeah. Right.
But if you switch it around and think, can I see myself in that, you know, or is there any part of what is annoying me about them?
Right.
Self. And that's humbling. It's sort of, you go, oh, hang on a minute, I do that. That, you know, it's,
Yeah.
and this
Or
stuff
even,
you keep getting it over and over. It gets presented to you until you deal with it, and then
yeah. Or it's like, well, you know what? I mean, first and foremost, being open to the fact that you may not know, you may not be conscious of certain things about you. But to sit there and go, no, I don't do that, you're already fucked. I mean, until you get past that, you know, if you can't, if you, and I'm saying this to myself, I mean, I'm not trying to, but you know, if you can't be, being open is so big.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing. Like for me, the first, I think my first lessons in being open had to do with 9 years ago, had to do with, stuff that I was finding out about 9/11 and evil, and you know, I don't accept, or I don't look at that way, but you know, I'm just saying you can't be open to the light and not open to the dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all one and the same.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then the old saying, if what you resist will persist.
Yep. It's like the Tao Te Ching. It's, you know, for something beautiful to exist, something ugly must exist. It's all perception. It's both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hard to stay.
I see a lot of progress. You
Yeah.
know, like for instance, I don't see the wounded empath energy like you did 5 years ago. You know, I don't see people, even though there's a lot of people saying this is a battle between good and evil and this is a spiritual war and all that. I still see more people accepting of darkness, you know, which means there's less judgment, you know. I mean, so I think we're moving the right direction as a group.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like you look at the world as one entity, and you know, everyone's got skeletons in the closet, and everyone's got their good points as well. It's just like the same clearing out that you're doing yourself. It just seems to be happening on a major grand scale at the moment. You see it. It's so above, so below.
Mm-hmm. Or as below, so above. Maybe that's
Yeah.
how it works. Maybe that's how it works, you know. Maybe, you know, there's some people out there, and someone I just did a show with. I can't remember who it is, but there's some plausible, you know, commentary out there in regard to us being like the epicenter, like, you know, being the center of it all. And I guess in the macro, micro whole thing, you know, above, below, within, without, that you could stand in any place in the multiverses and say the same thing.
Yeah. So we're the universal.
Yeah. It's like, well, we're special, but you're not that special. You're not more special than anyone else. You're just special. Right? Everything's the same thing. It's going to be interesting, though, to see what happens when, you know, when the information in the external gets to a certain point. Like when, okay, like, so you take like a monumental event, like, you know, JFK. I'm trying to think of, or maybe something that happened, you know, one of the things that happened at the Olympics, like when the terrorists came, and yeah, but something that the whole world, pretty much the whole world gets affected by, like something like, can you imagine? Like it'd be like a spaceships landing on the White House lawn.
Yeah.
Everybody would be affected. It would be a game changer, you know. I think that's going to be interesting to see what happens with what we do with the information.
Yep.
Do we externalize it? Do we internalize it? And then going back to what we were talking about earlier, when you brought up Robert Sepper and the cycle of, well, I guess what we will call more advanced civilizations coming down and living amongst the people and introducing technology and sacred wisdom and et cetera, and then leaving.
Yeah.
So that we could go from there. Why would that change now? Why would it change now? In fact, if they don't show up, it's better.
Yep.
Because that means as a group, we've become self-sufficient, responsible co-creators.
Yep.
Yeah. Trippy, man. I feel like I'm over there sitting in that field with you under that tree.
Good.
Isn't that strange?
Bit cold though, but it's good.
Man, I don't know. I've always known I was going to be there, and I've always known I'm going to go to Antarctica.
Yeah, I'd love to go down there.
Yeah. Well, when I come down there, we'll just figure out a way to do it. We'll have
Awesome.
to. Yeah.
I almost signed up to go down as a carpenter once, but you know, it's a long time to be away from when it was back when I had young kids. They were advertising. They wanted a carpenter down there for a while. But
man, you should have went. You'd be in the secret space program now.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's another thing I wonder about too. Because again, you have to be open. There's solid evidence that there's been esoteric knowledge that's been confined to 1% or whoever it is, right? So how do we know? Like you hear stories, you see accounts, for instance, of people that have, like where 2 or more people have an ET encounter. I remember one friend of mine, she was 18 years old. She, I think, lived on a cul-de-sac. She remembers the entire, like 10 houses or whatever, people coming out into the cul-de-sac in the middle of the night. There was a ship and everybody went somewhere.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is they talk about those memory swipes, right? Memory wipes. You see it in the movie Men in Black, right? Like they have these devices and it wipes everybody's. So how do we know that hasn't been used on us? How do we know anything? That's why I think everything that's happening, including questioning and having curiosity about those types of things, until you just go, you know what? I'm just going to put that over there because it doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
And so everything's forcing us, I think, to be more present.
Yeah.
Which is like sunrise, sunset.
That's it.
Feet in the dirt.
One day at a time.
It's like Mr. Miyagi. Wash on, wash off, or whatever it was. Wax on, wax off.
Wax on.
Yeah, you're a cool dude, man.
Thank you.
Very, very cool dude.
Been enjoying being part of the group.
Oh, we have a very interesting comment from Delia. I don't know if you saw Delia the other day. She was on, I think, Monday. It's very cool. She says, I had plenty of experiences I can go into with Soul Family. Wouldn't mind sharing privately. And I wonder how many people have those experiences. Like my friend that I was telling you about with the cul-de-sac.
Yep.
She for some reason, she remembers. And she remembers getting on a small ship. There was an ET in the cockpit, and she was laying on a gurney type thing behind him. And they merged. Chakras, souls, whatever you want to call it. And that's the thing. That's the distinctive thing that she remembers above all else was that.
Yep.
But I wonder how many people have stories. My brother, who's coming on in 30 minutes, 20 minutes, I hadn't seen him in 10 years. Right. And so he's 10 years younger than me. So when I was like 18, he was 8, So about that time, when I went to see him on the way over here from Florida, he said, I got a story to tell you. And he goes on to tell me the story about when we lived in that house, and he was about 8 years old, that he was driving. We were all coming home in the car. His mom, my dad, me and him, and he saw a ship. So we get to the house. He goes into the backyard and he sees an ET, and he described it to a T. How many of those stories are out there?
Yeah. And it's not the kind of thing people just go down to the pub and start telling their mates about either.
No.
You start talking about different subjects like that with people, and sometimes it surprises you. You've got like some burly bricklayer or something that'll come out and start telling you about something that they're waiting for someone else to bring it up, and then Declan, my mate that I was telling you about, committed suicide.
Yeah.
Travelling back across the Nullarbor once from Australia towards Adelaide, and this huge amount of sightings across the Nullarbor plain. And he said he saw a light go out in front of the car. He was just driving the car, and he picked up a hitchhiker. They're just taking turns driving across. It takes a couple of days to get across. Early hours of the morning, blue light out in front, and then it circled around behind him, and then came back out in front again, and then it just took off, went to nowhere, and the guy that was in the car with him was asleep.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going mad, and he got to one of those truck stops, roadhouse thing, walks in the door, and there's a truck driver at the counter just rambling on about exactly the same thing he saw.
Yeah.
And
same
I
thing.
Going,
yeah.
I'm glad I heard someone talk about it. It put so many. I mean, I personally haven't encountered anything like that I can, consciously remember.
And I know, and then there's the whole thing with, and you see it a lot with people that are traumatized, as like say as children. Their memory goes blank, right? Or they put it in, they store it somewhere where in the subconscious.
Yeah.
So like how do we, you know what I mean? It's just that's like,
and stuff's fascinating to me. I'd love to have a QHT session.
You should do that.
Yeah, it'd be good.
I'm going to get, I put the word out today. I'm going to try to get somebody, and I have somebody in mind, to do a QHHT with me online on a show.
Wow.
I'd like to see, just so everybody can see what, how it goes down and what happens.
Yeah.
I think that'd be interesting. I might not be the right person. It might have to be someone like you, have somebody, I might not be the right person. I don't know. But I think it'd be interesting to see, because you hear a lot about it. And, and I think too, when people, when we observe things, we're getting code.
Yep.
Like, it's not like it used to be. Like, go read this book, and then you'll know this, you'll have this much information added to your brain, right?
Yep.
Now we can kind of like, we can pick the book up, and we, it's moving like that. I mean, so it'd be interesting to see, how people would respond to that. Well, all right, man. I guess my little brother's coming on. I think this will be the first Soul Speaks 5D with someone who's not in these communities. Awesome. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. I was telling him that 2 of my kids had said they would come on. And then he says to me, well, I'll come on. I'm like, okay. I just hope he doesn't tell all the drinking stories. I'm going to be in trouble. Yeah, we got some good ones. But yeah, man, you're a beautiful, beloved brother. I appreciate all your love and support and contributions, and everybody's, because there's no way in hell we could do this. No way. And it's been a rough ride at times.
Yeah,
it's been a really rough ride. And thank God for Morgan Lee, the muse. Why we do the things we do.
Yeah, that's it. Keep us grounded.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You take care, and maybe we'll do this again sometime later in the year, if you want to.
Good.
Right on.
Thank you.
All right, brother. I'll see you later. Peace out, hippie.